Well, hello around the world, everybody. This is Heather Lockett with Lasting Conversations. Today, we are zooming in with the phenomenal Shā Sparks. Hi, Shā.
Hi, Heather. So excited to be here.
This is great. This is great. We met just a couple of weeks ago, that feels like lifetimes ago,
I know.
at a podcasting and multimedia convention in Orlando. And it was one of these little kismet moments. And people who listen to the show know that I'm all about the synchronicity and the kismet moments, where there had been this table with business cards and information, and people could just at your leisure see who resonated and you pick up their information. Well, I reached over for his business card and there was a photo on it. I went, this is very interesting. And I turned, and there you were, standing right next to me. And that led to a wonderful conversation, which then led to an amazing moment, which we will get to a little bit in the show. So, again, welcome to this very beautifully planned yet synchronistic moment.
Well, I always believe in divine intervention and divine
Yeah,
connections.
yeah.
And that's definitely how I felt when we met. And immediately it was like, oh, we're supposed to be here. Yes.
We are definitely supposed to be here, and divine timing. So, Shā, you have many hats, all of which that culminate into one clear message, which is living fearlessly,
Mm.
living from that divine space. And you are a guide for people in business, in the business world, for their personal lives, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to give you the mic and explain so many of the amazing things that you do here on this planet to assist people. I know that you're a very good MC, because you had the microphone at the conference that had about 2,000 people, and so you were warm and welcoming and very well rounded and knowledgeable. And you're here also. We're here to speak about, there's business, and then what I am calling business unusual, that we don't all have to try so hard.
Mm.
So tell us about your podcast show and all of the magical work that you do.
Yes. Well, thank you. It is magical. And that's how I feel about it anyway. It sometimes I feel like you get that divine a nudge to go
Hmm.
follow something, and next thing you know, it's 5 years down the road, and you're doing something completely different than you ever thought possible. So I am Shā Sparks. I am the Chief Excitement Officer of Sparks of Fire International, where we spark leaders to find, share, and use their voice through coaching, podcasting, and publications so that they're fired up about their life and business. Now, how did I get to that? That might be a conversation for another day. But the quick version is that I had been a hairstylist for many years, and I was in an abusive relationship. And as I got out of that relationship, got on the healing journey, and started to peel away the layers of the onion that I am, that we all
Hmm.
are. I started to share what I learned about myself with my hair clients, and they went and learned from me and shifted their relationship with their own family, their own boss, their own team. And they came back and said, hey, have you ever considered starting a podcast, writing a book, becoming a coach? And I was like, well, I mean, in the back of my mind, yes, but I can't really do that. And after they, thank God, was spoke life into me for so long, I thought, well, what if they're right? And what if I just borrow their confidence in me and do explore these things with curiosity and see what happens? I mean, the worst thing that can happen is I learn a new skill. And so here we are. Gosh, that was 7 years ago. And now it's my full time gig. And it is a completely freeing, the complete opposite of fear. It's so freeing and beautiful and orchestrated by something I could have never have imagined. So that's the quick version.
I love that, and exploring curiosity, and for something that's beyond us. And similarly, this whole notion of my own podcast show, I got kind of drop kicked into the very thing that, once I was physically standing in a studio and talking, that the person was talking about a podcast, I recognized within myself, oh, didn't I just ask for this? Isn't this really what I'm meant to be doing, among other things? So very similarly, if people speak life into us where we haven't had that same confidence in our own voice. So
Mhm.
tell us where you are helping people, like you have found your voice in coming out of abusive relationships, which that is the major thing. We're
Yeah.
in our shell for a
Mhm.
reason.
Right.
People have kind of done some stuff that we get very shy,
Right.
and that we don't think we're worthy of
Mm.
voicing these things, especially if they're a little bit outside the normal box, right? So this is amazing that you're working with people and that you have this beautiful gift. And I love hairdressers. I'll just put that out there because hairdressers are a gift when people can listen and you're
Mm.
hearing stories. Hairdressers and bartenders,
Yeah.
that's a whole different show. Maybe there's a podcast in that somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's, coaching
So,
behind the chair for sure my entire
oh, I love that,
right?
coaching
Yeah.
behind the chair. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, please go on.
Well, I started to notice a theme when I went through my healing journey that I was scared to actually say what I mean and mean what I say and
Right.
not say it meanly. I was very sarcastic and I
And
under
not say it meanly. Sorry to interject, but
no,
that's huge. And not
that's
say it
huge.
meanly. Right.
Yeah, so sarcasm is the word, right? And so everybody's like, "Oh, but you're so sarcastic, you're so funny." It's like, "Yeah, but when you dive down and peel away the layers, do you understand what really sarcasm is?" And I heard a woman at a Women of Faith conference say this, and she said, "Sarcasm is anger in a clown suit." And I was like, "What? Wow, exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I've been experiencing in my own family because everyone was sarcastic, but that's what I'm doing to other
Right.
people." So, it goes along with the lines with hurt people because they're hurting.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, so how do I really say what I mean and mean what I say? And I learned in this journey that, well, I had two books I read. One was Boundaries, and the other one was Women Who Love Too Much, which
Yeah.
really could be named People Who Love Too Hard because it's pertains to everyone.
Right.
And I learned how when you're in and I'll just use the word toxic, when you're in a toxic relationship, it's not because you just go, oh, I'm going to be in this relationship and boom, it just happens to be toxic. No, no, it's familiar. And that was the thing that really got me like, well, what happened in my past that made this familiar? And so I really started to look at my relationship with my parents and my brothers. I'm the youngest, and then my grandmother. So those were my key core family that was surrounding me most of my life. And every one of them was sarcastic. None of them understood nurturing, understood how to love, understood how to say, I love you or give a hug. We didn't have any of that in my home. And the phrase that they use to describe that in Women Who Love Too Much is emotionally unavailable. And I'll never forget, I came home from visiting my brother, actually, and his wife at the time from Christmas. And I was like this realization that my parents were that way. And I come home from this Christmas vacation of despair. I mean, I was like, wow, my brother and his new wife, they're emotionally unavailable. And I'm just kind of like praying about it internally, like, what does this mean? And then it was like, smack on the head of a light bulb of, oh, it means I'm also emotionally unavailable. And I said, okay, so how do I get out of that? How do I heal from that? And I heard very distinctly, you have to be vulnerable. And I remember at the time saying it out loud, what? Because that's so foreign to me. And it was so hard for me to say because the word itself is like scary. And I thought, there is no way I can be vulnerable. I can't. I've been quieted my whole life, not shy, quieted. My voice was quieted because I was the peacemaker. I was the people pleaser. I was the one who was walking on eggshells, making sure everyone else was taken care of rather than me. So now you want me to actually say what's going on and how I'm feeling and how I'm doing, and you want me to be brave and be vulnerable. Like how does that even work? And the phrase that came to me was, I'm new here and I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, I can't say that out loud. That's crazy. And so I thought, well, what if I did it anyway. What if I, in the midst of fear, just continued to be scared and do it anyway? What does that look like? So I started going to networking events, just seeing what would happen. And I would talk to people about their business, and I'd end up helping them with their social media and talking to them about being on podcasts, but way before I even had a podcast or even knew what podcasting really was. Instagram was very new at the time, and no one was on Instagram for their business. And I'm sharing with them all the things that I had learned, just in my own study, really, for my business. And they're like, "So what can I do for you? How can I support you? What brings you to this networking event?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm new here and I really don't know what I'm doing." Ooh, and I would like cringe as I said it. And I said, "I'm a hairstylist." They're like, "Oh, you need more clients." I'm like, "Actually, I don't. I'm good there, but I know I know I'm working on something else, and I don't know what that is yet." And so here I am, just trying to stumble through and figure it out. What I found so fascinating in this process with walking through curious exploration was how many people took notes when I was telling them, like getting on Instagram, getting on, listening to podcasts and reading books and diving into personal development and professional development and what that looks like, and all the things that I had learned up until that point. That people were taking notes, and I thought, huh, maybe there's something here. Maybe my knowledge that I've learned, if I hold it on to myself, hold it only to myself, is just helping me. But what if I share it? What happens then? And then that's when I got to thinking about the hurt people because they're hurting. Well, I wonder if the opposite is true. Do empowered people empower people because they're empowered? And that's kind of how the journey really began.
This is so incredible, and so many just brilliant nuggets and nuggets and nuggets. And again, the kismet, if there are no accidents that we're speaking together, because I have many of those come from, starting with the land of sarcasm. So once upon a time, the land of sarcasm
Hmm.
is very steep. Now you had used that word, is very familiar. I
Hmm.
was, even before you started talking about your family, I went to, well, it's very familial.
Yeah.
So if the
Yes.
people that you're with, and I will say, I'm an old New Englander. So it's very sarcastic, and which is funny. I love a good joke, and I love a swirl of a tongue. And the more I've stepped away from the land of sarcasm and learned all of the various things that you were talking about just now, and now I love speaking A plus B equals C. Let's just be direct. Um, because when people are all swirled like that, and it's a monkey mind, and I've heard other connotations of what sarcasm is. It's like it's the
Yeah.
mean clown. It's
Hmm.
it's it's basically a giant fu,
Right.
ha ha ha, and
Yes.
and I'm going to keep you on guard and on those eggshells, because I'm not really, that person's not speaking what they're really saying. What are they really saying? And how can they receive what I'm saying? That was my own kind of aha
Hmm.
moment, even
Hmm.
post divorce. Was I had a simple text to write, and I realized, oh my gosh, he's going to hear it like I'm a digging, but I'm just trying to say the sky is blue.
Yeah.
No, there's no agenda, right?
Yeah.
So you had me right there. That's very, very true. So when we come out of the land of sarcasm to really voice from authenticity, and that vulnerability means, is it safe? Am I safe
Hmm.
to show whatever it is, an imperfection maybe? So I appreciate everything. Laying all of that groundwork is huge. And then about the empowering, once we find our ground and our footing for ourselves,
Yeah.
oh, what is that quote? Who am I to not
Yes.
shine that? Not beat everybody else over the head with it, but at least to be that then beacon to say, have you tried another avenue, so that you don't have to feel so miserable yourself, coming out of your shell? So I just love everything. I resonate with everything that you
Mm.
were saying, because it's just so true in ways that we may not even understand if we're so
Right.
used to, and we're compacted we're not sure how to even blossom out of that muck and mire.
Absolutely. What brings up to me is I learned the phrase during all this time about
Yeah.
sarcasm was passive aggressive. And I was like, oh, I'm not passive aggressive. Well, how dare you think I'm passive aggressive? And then I like look at it some more and I'm like, oh, that's what I am. Oh, got it. Because I'm not being authentic. I'm really not
Right.
saying what's going on with me.
Right.
And when you said, I'm trying to say the sky is blue, going back to that, I'm new here. So
Yes. I love
saying
that.
like communication is new for me, really
Yes.
talking about what's going on with me is new for me. And I've said that started with many conversations like that because I know like I'm going to mess this up. So let me just preface it, let you know that I'm not really used to talking about my feelings and my thoughts. So this is new to me. And
Right.
just by saying that, it gives me at least grace for myself. Whether they give it to me or not, it doesn't matter. I at least give it to myself. So
And
I
I
love
love
that you
that.
said that.
Yeah. Well, see, we both we said, I love that. So, and that's just it. And in a business setting, when there can be that puffery or bravado or the assumption, or I will put it on me to say, well, I'm assuming I should already know what all these people know versus accepting, oh, I don't. So I love that very self phrase that you had. Well, I'm new here. Help me understand. What do I need to know that I don't even know that I don't
Yeah.
know? Like what someone is offering. Well, how can I help you? I don't know. How can you help me? I'm a beginner here.
Hmm.
And that's that vulnerability. Can we say, I just don't even know?
Well, and I used to ask myself that within my own journey during that
Hmm.
time, and I still do it on occasion. What is it that I don't know that I
Hmm.
need to know in order to move forward? Because
Right.
we're always focused, most of the time, we're always focused on what we know.
Yep.
But there's a whole big world out there that we don't know anything about. We sometimes, we drive the same route to work every single day, and when traffic hits, you're like, I don't even know how to get around here, right? So it's like, okay, what is it that you don't know? And that
Well,
is a
that's
really and being able to then say it, like
yes.
not just question yourself, but say it to other people.
Well, and with your clients and everything, and your guests on your show, is there still a shyness to asking for help?
For me now,
Anybody, just for the guests, for your clients, for the
oh,
people, is that kind of almost like a baseline? Is, oh, wait a second, I am brilliant here, so let's all own our brilliance, and also, I really could use help, and this is where I'm not sure where it is. So that's that kind of 360. Are you having other people also understanding it can be both? I'm brilliant, but
mhm.
I'm bumping into something I'm not even sure about.
Well, with especially with my clients, like
Hmm.
support. First of all, realizing and becoming aware of what it is you need is first.
Yep.
And the need might be, I don't know what I need. And that's okay because at least you know that, right? You know that you don't know. And then two, I have found most people don't ask for support. We're not familiar. It was not taught to us in any class, shape, or form that I took growing up at school how to ask for support. I was taught, in fact, shamed. Like, what do you mean you don't get it? Like, no. They would always say, well, if you have questions, come find me. But then it's like, well, and then I'm going to get shamed or I'm going to get laughed at or it's not going to compute or whatever story we're telling ourselves. So, yeah, I found most of my clients are that asking for support. They're like, what have you done to ask for support? They're like, oh, that's never crossed my mind. It's also that whole we have to be independent, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, all the things of cliches that we learned as children.
Right.
We get an opportunity now as adults to really reframe that and look at those things that we thought as true as, oh, those were holding me back. Those were limiting beliefs. They were actually installing in me, repeating it over and over again. Got it. So now how can I look at that as not being true? And
I love that.
what does that mean if it's not true? you know?
And what exactly? And what does that mean? And that gets into reframing and
Hmm.
reframing a lot that we've been taught and learned and now relearning. This is about to segue into something you and I tapped into before we started recording. So blending in. So now you are chief excitement officer. So you're helping people find their excitement and find their joy and passion and channeling it into what it is that they're gifted with. Now, here's the segue piece into what you were just saying, and then we had an experience when we were at the convention of, I'm going to say, melting in to ourselves, so
Mm.
that even how we are to present and do business or come into our greatest selves is also changing. So we're so used to that, striving and thriving and bulletproofs and 5-year plans and all these structures. But what you were just saying helps us tap into, maybe there's a gentler way, maybe there's a
Mhm.
more exponential way that isn't what we have been taught.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a bit about that. And this gets into how you do your work with your clients.
Mm. Well, Heather, have you ever been a workaholic?
A little bit.
Yeah, right?
A holic of many things, for sure. Yes,
Same,
yes, yes. And the
guilty,
people
same,
and
same.
the people pleasing and the over fixing and
Yeah.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
alcohol and shopping and
Whatever. Yeah, a little bit
whatever.
of
Yeah.
chocolate. Yes, you
Yep.
name it.
Yep.
We all have something, for sure.
Right.
Yes.
And I say, when I do something, I do it really well, or when I mess something up, I
Yes.
mess it up really good. Like
Yeah.
it's the one of those.
Yeah.
And being a workaholic and then realizing that the hustle mindset, the hustle mentality that we've grown up with,
Right.
because that's how our parents raised us, or that's how the media was raising us. Like, no,
And
you got to hustle, you got
society.
to
And now
hard
we
work.
have the
And then
social,
we have the side hustle, right? We
and
not
now
just
we
have
have the side hustle.
our daily hustle, we have the
That's
side
right.
hustle as well, right?
Right.
It's all this lingo that's being
And the
thrown out there.
multitasking. Oh, we were supposed to be
Oh yeah, well, I'm
multitasking.
supposed to be
Right.
all the things.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. No, you do all the things. You keep going. Oh, you're sick, keep going. Like you don't take a sick day,
Right.
all these things that again,
You grind it. The notion of the grind. I think
we
that's morphing.
yeah, we were conditioned.
Yeah.
That's being true is definitely evolving. It is becoming, instead of about doing, having, and then being this thing that we think about, that we want to be, like at peace. We want to be happy. We want to have joy. Well, do we be those things first, or do we do something first? Right. And so, one of the things that I've been consciously focusing on over the past probably 7 or 8 years, but really focusing on the being part. And I will tell you, actually, it's been longer than that. So I will back it up and tell you about this journaling I used to do. I still do at times, but this really was huge for me. Gosh, almost 20 years ago. And I started to write down I capture my thoughts, everything I was thinking to myself about myself. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not rich enough. Blah, blah,
Ah,
blah.
yeah. The
Right.
list,
The list of all the
otherwise known as the beat myself up list. Yes.
exactly
Yeah.
that inner negative voice.
Yeah.
And I wrote everything down. And then I wrote, I am no longer this. And then I find who inspires me. Do I have an aspirational hope to be like? What are their characteristics? And as we know, we see in others what is really present in ourselves. We are a mirror. So after I write down the list of positive characteristics in the people that are inspirational to me, I started to write the I am, two most powerful words in our English language. I am right before those positive characteristics. And I did this exercise over and over again. I was like, wow, this is powerful.
Mhm.
Like, this is powerful work to just start there, to really. get our mind out of that inner negative voice, that beating yourself up, like you said, that constant, like, I gotta go, 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 go. Because in this moment of realization and journaling, we're just being. We're just being with our thoughts, being with our emotions, being present, which most people aren't. They're focused on the past or they're focused on the future.
Mhm.
So just the being was huge. And as I started to continue this journaling process, this healing journey I was on, I started to look at what I wanted professionally. And I would dream like huge dreams and write them all down. I'm a real estate investor. I'm an online presence, a business owner. I'm a successful CEO. I'm this, this, and this, and this. I'm a published author. And I would write them over and over again because repetition sticks in our brain, right?
Mhm.
That's why I mean, I'm a troublemaker. So in school, you would write, I will not throw paper wads at the teacher, that type of thing, right?
Right. Right.
They made you do that for a reason. And so
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
the opposite is true, right? So I
Yeah.
am these things, these amazing things.
Right.
And as time went on, I no longer journaled anything every day. I just stuck it on a postcard, an index card, and I stuck it on my wall. Years go by, and I'm actually packing to move where I live now 2 years ago. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, holy cow, I can literally check off every professional thing that I listed. I can check that off now. I did it. And it's because I didn't focus on doing anything. I already am. Oh, I got the chills. I already embodied the being of those things as I was writing them over and over again. Because when we take ownership of who we're being, then our brain starts to take actions on what to do so that then we have the things that we want.
Let's just let that land for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is so true. And in so many ways, that's a very practical practice to actually then get to something that can feel intangible. But that's just it. This is the doorway that can open for us.
Yes. And someone in your audience might be thinking, oh, I mean, that's great for you, Shay, that worked, but it's not going to
Hmm.
work for me.
Hmm.
And let me just tell you, I came from an abusive relationship with no hope whatsoever. And I started to think, what would my life look like on the other side of this relationship? What is my aspirational hope that I want for my life? And when you look from a point of view from that, rather than I'm just surviving this
Right.
moment, your brain starts to create scenarios where you're thriving. And as this happens, swear to God, this is how it works. As this happens, as your brain starts to create the thriving in your life, you start to look for the good. You be thankful for everything that you have. The attitude of gratitude shows up. And
Hmm.
next thing you know, you are now thriving and because you have manifested the life you've always wanted. Didn't know that's how it worked. It just was a process.
It's so
So
true.
if
Yeah.
you think about that aspirational hope, that's where it all comes from.
So the aspirational hope, and it doesn't have to seem, it can seem pie in the sky. And believe me, I've had those moments too, where seeing people dancing and full of joy in the moment when I walked into that room, I had this moment on the proverbial on my knees moment, burst into tears when I thought I will never have that because I had
Mm,
walked in feeling
yes.
broken.
Yep.
But you know what it is? This, and we can get into energy. You have to shift. It's more than the quote unquote book learning. It's how we're feeling in that moment. Where at that time I couldn't even imagine feeling so joyous,
Hmm.
right? And in that moment, I needed that cry. I needed, and somebody reached over and just loved me in that moment.
Mm,
And that gets into where have you been supported or not.
yeah.
So the other flavor to that as you're talking, we can write down affirmations, we can say these things. This gets back into if we've been stewing in the land of sarcasm,
Mm,
where the very verbiage is not real. What is real, not real? Or the verbiage comes with a knife behind it.
mm,
That, I don't know about your process, but for
yeah.
me, I couldn't, even the affirmations things was like, yeah, 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 yeah.
Hmm.
Well, happy for you. Well, yeah, yeah. Because, oh my God, this planet called sarcasm and there's that intangible thing of just negative Nelly. It
Yes.
has to, oh, that's what it is. It's the kissing cousin of the sarcasm is, well, it has to suck.
Yeah.
Everything has to suck.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have to suck and I have to suck, and that's just stupid, right? Rainbows, unicorns, well, that's just stupid. So, all of these things, if we've stewed in it, to then put into practice what you were describing, that is the practice. That is a new rhythm. And to be with people such as yourselves, to be with people um, who can embody and have that, so you can feel that somebody has your back and you can feel there is a different way, a modeling. I guess that's the modeling. If you have
Hmm.
modeling, you need to know, oh, this is possible.
Hmm.
This is possible. Where if you've come from all these crazy ass lands, you don't know what's even really possible. So it goes into everything that you were just sharing about that process and about opening into um, amazingness. And everybody has that gift of doing that, opening up the box and having all that light come out. But that's us.
Hmm. I want to touch on, if you don't mind, I want to touch on something
Of
you
course
just
not.
said. So
Yeah.
you show up at this space and you're not in a good place, and someone put their hand on your shoulder and they gave you permission just by doing that to break
Yep.
down. They let you know you were safe. So think about that from a outsider point of view. So I used to have one of those annoying friends, and I say annoying now because I'm like, yeah, sarcastically, haha. So she was one of those annoying friends that was always happy, always jumping up and down. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. How does your life not suck? Like, how did you get that life and I got this life? Like, that was always my thought process. How
Yeah.
is it that you're always excited like that for anything? And I didn't get it. And yet, what I was noticing was something I wanted,
Hmm.
but I didn't know I wanted it because this negative voice puts it down. This negative voice goes, "Oh, that's stupid." Or
Hmm.
that's whatever, weak, that's showing her vulnerability. It's not true. Whatever, this fear is really what it comes from, is fear.
Right.
Fear shows up. And so when I noticed that that's what I was doing and saying in my own head, doing the doing part, I was saying all these negative things about really great people. I thought, okay, here I am doing this, and yet I don't know what their secret sauce is. I don't know what they've been smoking or drinking or sniffing or whatever before they came in here. And what if I was able to be open enough to receive that energy as it just bounces off of them onto me? I don't have
Hmm.
to do anything. I just have to not think anything in my head. Like, just be there and just allow it to overflow onto me. And I was like, huh. And that's really what you did when you walked in there. You were in a bad space. And yet, if you were, oh, nobody's going to pay attention to me on blah, 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 all the things, you might have been in a corner by yourself, isolating yourself, because that's what we do naturally, because we're doing naturally, right? But instead, you show up, your mind frame was not in, I'm the victim here. You showed up as, here I am, period. Here I be, period. And you had support. Ooh, I got chills again. You had support immediately. And I think the biggest takeaway for me was really understanding that phrase, well, you just have to love yourself. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And the love yourself is not the judging and the being critical of me in those moments. And that is how you be.
All of it, all of it. And you got chills. I was welling up because to say yes to what you were describing, that I was showing up for me in ways I had no comprehension, but the rest of what unfolded, which is still unfolding, it is the miracle. It
Mm,
is the miracle. So thank you for seeing that and acknowledging that, just showing up. Sometimes we just have to show up because we're showing up for ourselves in ways that we don't even know at that moment, and what gifts are happening. It's truly amazing. It really is.
hmm
Yeah,
And I'll say, show up without judgment of ourselves.
that's just it.
That's it. And
That's
that
right.
I fully believe that when you do that, you're
Right.
creating an energy force field that allows you to receive.
Right. Right. And dropping guard.
Yep.
You just got to drop your guard. So, Shay, tell us more about, you've got a book that you're collecting stories. You are helping people finding their voice and being firebrands in their own world. Tell us about what an excitement officer does, such as yourself.
Yeah, well, it came from that woman I was just telling you about. Like, oh my gosh, she's always excited. That's so crazy. And yet I went, I now I'm like, wait, I want that. How
Yeah.
do I do that?
Right.
And as I started to
I'll
heal,
have what she's having.
yeah, like I don't know what she's smoking, sniffing. What is she doing?
Yeah.
But because I'm the holics, right? The all the things, I knew I couldn't actually do the thing, right? Like if she is smoking or sniffing or whatever,
Right.
eating.
We're not
I'm
right.
like, I can't do that part.
We got to do the natural way.
So I gotta exactly, I
Right.
gotta figure this
Right.
out. And so I thought, well, I really want that thriving and joy about life.
Yep.
What does that look like? And it's like, well, if I'm that, then I'm like, for those of you who are listening to this and can't see me, I'm literally shaking in my chair. It's like I get so excited about whatever the thing is that I'm talking about or going to, be doing. It's that I can't contain it. The energy almost vibrates the frequency off of me. And I started to notice that as I was driving to work in the beginning days of my healing journey, I was driving to work, I was smiling for no reason. And I was like, huh, well, that's weird and different. And okay, I'm okay with that. And then it was like just noticing that more and more and more. And, that started 15 years ago. And I just had someone literally tell me yesterday, they're like, your aura is yellow. Like it just screams high energy, high excitement when you walk in the room. And I was like, interesting. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that because that's that was my aspirational hope.
Right.
That's who I wanted to be. And here I am.
And there you are.
So now what I do is I give other people permission to do that for their own life, really, is what I do in a way that supports them and supports their business or supports their project. It might be a
Hmm.
cause, it might be a nonprofit, it might be their podcast, their coach, whatever it is, the thing that they're passionate about. So with Firestarter's book project, we collect creative thought leaders and collaborate and connect inside a book with each leader sharing their own story of hope, love, connection, community, and what that looks like to them. So the first book was called How to Be a Spark of Hope in the Midst of Change. And this all started in 2020. So, of course, we all know what the world was like then, right?
Hmm.
And there was all this change. And yeah, there was all this despair and fear and everything else going with it. And so I put the call out like, hey, who would want to be a part of this? And, I had amazing 10 people show up and I have such an abundance and different diversity group of people that I love, who I call friends. I have two chief master sergeants in the Air Force in it. I have a Navy veteran also in that book. And then I have podcasters and coaches from all walks of life inside the book sharing their own journey of being a spark of hope in the midst of change. And so as I came up with this whole collection series, 17 titles came to me. And so the next book we're working on now that we're accepting co-authors for is How to Rekindle Your Kindness,
Hmm.
What the World Needs Now, because we believe that kindness has always, that we were born with it. So how do we rekindle it?
I
Yeah.
love it. So so fire starters, is that the name of a book, or that's the project that you now have the 17 titles
Yeah.
within fire starters?
Yeah, so that's the project. The project is Firestarter's Book Project, and you can
Hmm.
find out more if you don't mind me putting the website,
Please do. Please do. Sure.
firestartersbookproject.com. You can find out
Hmm.
more. But the book title that we're looking for co-authors for in this series is How to Rekindle Your Kindness, What the World
Yeah.
Needs Now. So it's about
Perfect.
sharing your kindness story.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And oh, I know we've got something else. What else is it that is part of your passion or a passion project? Or what is it, speaking of community, which this show is all about community, where are you finding, or what kind of messaging, what do you think people need to be hearing right now? Or if somebody, maybe there's a listener that's been listening for a bit, but now they're going to say, oh, you here, can you listen to Shay, that this woman is some good medicine for you right now. I think it feels like we have something right now, because of so many things happening in the world. And
Mhm.
we can say, yeah, the kindness, and people, again, from these monkey minds are like, yeah, 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 kindness. No, there's something else that needs to be shared. It's just something very tangible as a takeaway to share.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me preface it by saying this. So I work with a lot of people from diverse walks of life. And I found myself, because I walked through a door with curious exploration, I found myself working with a lot of veterans. And one of the things I've learned so much from this group is how they assume everyone's a veteran. Okay.
Okay.
People who are in an abusive relationship assume everyone's healthy, or they assume everyone's abused, or they assume that they're alone. So, whatever walk of life, you either assume everyone's the same and everyone knows it, or you assume you're completely alone and no one will understand.
Yep.
And I'm here to tell you neither one is true, which is mind blowing when you think about how many people hurt themselves and hurt others because of those two beliefs right there.
Hmm.
So, part of my podcast, The Shā Sparks Show, this season, which started in November, celebrating 5 years, I decided to add a little fun, cheeky segment to the back of the interview that's called Don't Be a Dick
I
segment.
love it.
And it's an acronym that stands for dishonorable, inconsiderate, conniving, and know it all. And instead be kind,
Hmm.
right? So think about it this way. If you're one of those people that are assuming that everyone knows what you know, then that's the know it all. Or if you're one of those people that is assuming that you're all alone, that's the conniving part and the dishonorable part to yourself.
Hmm.
And the reason that needs, we need more kindness in the world right now is because we've learned and we've been conditioned on how to be a dick to ourselves. And then that overflows onto others and we don't even realize it. So this whole time, this whole interview, we've been talking about the inner negative voice. That's where it stems from. And that stems from being conditioned as a child. And our our adult decisions are shaped by our childhood experiences. So if we can figure out how to be kind, not to be judgmental, not to be insulting, not to be passive aggressive to us, to ourselves internally, then it will naturally overflow onto those in your community, your family, your loved ones, everyone else.
Beautiful. It's so true. I'm going to ask a question that came up as I wonder, and especially by the time you got to the dick part, the dishonor, etc., it goes right back to the hurt people tend to hurt people. Is there a third prong to that? What you were saying, which is if you come from the lens of the dishonor, that like if that is your behavior in your wheelhouse, this is how you are behaving, you're thinking, no, that's how everybody else is also behaving.
Mm-hmm.
That again, the land of sarcasm, the land of the
Yep.
twisted mindset
Yep.
and or behavior set. So if you're thinking, and I'll just say, I also came from that too,
Mm,
where there was nothing, any acts of kindness couldn't be received. If I
yeah.
was showing kindness, it couldn't be received because the recipient was thinking I was burning them at the stake, because of their own hurtnesses. They're thinking so if a thief is a thief, they're thinking everybody's out to get them. Like
Right.
that the world is full of thieves.
Right.
I'll put it bluntly that way.
Yep.
So if those types of behaviors and mindset, they're thinking everybody's also a thief, and that
Right.
begets the hurting, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, it comes down to ourselves as well. So if it gets into the soup. If that soup has been boiling in all of that goo, and then that's what we do to ourselves. So then that's what we do out sideways to everybody else. So I love the two aspects. I'm thinking there could be a third, all tying in to we don't have to be the proverbial dicks anymore because we don't have to dishonor ourselves and we don't have
Mm,
to dishonor anybody else. And we don't have to assume everybody else is doing this,
right.
right?
Right.
That's the paradigm shift. Um, there's still people that are thinking that the world sucks and we're all going to hell in a handbasket. Well, no, shift your perspective. That's
Hmm.
actually not true because there's so much kindness in the world. If we choose to see kindness,
See it.
that's what we have to choose to see the kindness.
Well, maybe that's the third prong. Make it a choice, right?
Make it a
Yeah.
choice. There's the third prong.
I love that. And I'll
Yeah.
say this. So I work with a nonprofit around Imagine Kindness.
Hmm.
And there's four pillars of kindness that we talk about. And it's being kind to ourselves, being kind to others, being kind to our community, and then receiving kindness with grace. And that's what you were just talking about. It's that
Hmm.
receiving kindness, and how often do we push away compliments? How often do we push away that support when it shows up? I don't know about you, but how many times when something's happened to you, people say, "Well, if you need anything, let me know." And then you're like, "Yeah, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to let you know that I need anything." Right. And it's like, but as humans, we were born with kindness. We were born with this beautiful gene that said, I will help I will help. I will help someone. So when you are in that position and you need help, say it, because
Hmm.
people just want to help you.
Right. I love that. That unless you have something else that feels very much like the cherry on top, people want
Mm,
to help you and receive that.
beautiful. Thank you. This
I
was
love that.
wonderful. This was wonderful.
Say, Shā Sparks, where can people find you and find out more about your podcast, your book launching, all of the good gooey nuggets that you have for us?
Thank you for asking, and thank you for one connecting with me at Podfest, but thank you for just being in the room, and thank you for your friendship and for being here, and sisterhood. I can see many things in the future with us, so thank
Nice.
you for that.
Thank you.
Uh,
Well, we'll play some more. This is just
yeah,
the beginning of this playground. So I
exactly.
appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. My website is shasparks.com. That's SHASPARKS.com. My podcast is the shasparksshow.com. And between all the social medias of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you can find me at Shā Sparks, and feel free to message me. Let me know that you heard me on Heather's show. I would love to connect. And that's the thing, I'm always willing to support whoever reaches out to me. And like I said, I know a plethora of people in many, many aspects of life. So if there's even someone that I don't know the answer, because believe me, I'm now for the first to say, I don't know that, but I probably know someone who does. So let me connect you with the right person. Thank you.
Beautiful. Shay, thanks again so much. And yes, we will continue playing, we'll continue the conversation, and kindness matters. And I know that we are all in this together. So our community of joy and brother sisterhood does expand, and we extend that out to the world and the cosmos and the universe. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Please be sure to like, share, and review this show. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you can email us at podcast@lastingconversations.com and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This is Heather Lockett with Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.